Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a chapter in Genesis that often catches people by surprise. Chapter 38.
Right. It feels like hitting pause on the main story, doesn't it?
It does. It steps away from Jacob and the whole Joseph drama and really zooms in hard on just one son, Judah.
Yeah, it's almost like a short, self-contained story about him.
Yeah.
It shows us what happens when he, separates from his brothers and goes off to live near Adullam.
And that's where he meets a local Canaanite man, Shua, and ends up marrying his daughter.
Mm-hmm. And they have 3 sons, Onan, and Shelah. But the focus quickly shifts, well, really to the fate of these sons and this woman who comes into their lives.
Tamar.
Exactly, Tamar. Judah arranges for his firstborn, to marry her.
But almost immediately, things take a dark turn. The text is pretty blunt about It says he was wicked in the Lord's sight.
Just like that. No details, just wicked. And the consequences equally stark. So the Lord put him to death.
Wow. Okay. Swift and severe. So is gone.
Right. So Judah then turns to his second son, Onan. He tells him, basically, marry Tamar, fulfill your duty as brother-in-law, give your brother offspring.
This is that idea, levirate marriage, right? To keep the family line going.
That's the principle, yeah.
Hmm.
But Onan, well, he wasn't on board. He knew any child wouldn't technically be his heir.
So what did he do?
The text says he deliberately spilled his semen on the ground whenever he was with Tamar, specifically to avoid giving his dead brother any children.
And the reaction? Just as strong as with
Just as strong. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so he put him to death also. So now 2 sons are dead, both called wicked.
It really makes you pause. What exactly was the wickedness? Was it just not fulfilling the duty or something more about them? The text doesn't quite say.
It focuses on the action, or inaction, regarding Tamar and continuing the line. So, Jude is now down to 1 son, Shelah, and he's got Tamar, who's been widowed twice. You can kind of feel his anxiety.
Absolutely. So he tells Tamar basically, go back to your father's house, live as a widow, wait until Shelah grows up.
But the text reveals his inner thought. He may die too, just like his brothers. He's scared. He doesn't want to risk his last son.
So Tamar obeys. She goes back home and waits.
And waits. The text says a long time goes by.
And during that time, Judah's own wife, the mother of Onan, and Shelah, she dies.
Yeah. And after Judah mourns and sort of gets back on his feet, he decides to go up to Timnah for sheep shearing. He takes his friend Hara along.
This trip becomes the catalyst, doesn't it? Because Tamar hears about it.
She does. And she realizes, wait a minute, Shelah is grown up now. That was the condition.
Yeah.
But I haven't been given to him. Judah hasn't fulfilled his side of the deal.
She's been left hanging. Her future, the family line she was meant to be part of, it's all uncertain because Judah didn't follow through.
You can sense her options narrowing. So she decides to take a huge risk, a really bold plan.
What does she do?
Okay, so she takes off her widow's clothes. It's a very public symbol of her status, right? Then she covers herself with a veil, disguising herself.
Yeah.
And she goes and sits right by the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road she knows Judah will be taking to Timnah.
She's putting herself directly in his path, but hidden in plain sight.
Exactly. And the disguise works perfectly.
Yeah.
Judah sees her, but because of the veil, he doesn't recognize her at all. He just assumes.
He thinks she's a prostitute.
Yeah, the text says he thought she was a prostitute for she had covered her face. He has absolutely no idea it's his daughter-in-law, the woman he's essentially put in this precarious position.
And he propositions her.
Straight up, come now, let me sleep with you.
And Tamar, playing this role, she doesn't just agree, she negotiates.
She does. She asks, okay, what's the payment? What will you give me?
So Judah offers a young goat from his flock.
But Tamar's smart. She knows a promise isn't enough. She says, basically, okay, but what will you give me now as a pledge until you send the goat? She needs collateral.
And what does she ask for?
Things that are unmistakably his. His personal items, his seal and its cord, like his signature, his mark of identity.
Wow.
And the staff in your hand. Another very personal, possibly symbolic item.
And he gives them to her.
He does. He hands over his seal, his cord, his staff. They sleep together. And, well, she became pregnant by him.
Just like that. The plan worked. Risky, but it worked.
Uh-huh. And then she leaves, takes off the veil, puts her widow's clothes back on, and just melts back into her previous life. But everything has changed.
So what about Judah? Does he try to get his stuff back?
He does. He sends his friend Hira with a young goat, like he promised, to find the woman, pay her, and retrieve his seal and staff.
But Hira can't find her, right?
Nope. He asks around, asking the local men about the term used is sometimes shrine prostitute in that spot, but they're like, no, there hasn't been anyone like that here.
So the trail goes cold.
Completely. Hira goes back to Judah empty-handed.
And Judah's reaction?
He basically says, forget it. Let her keep this stuff. If we make a fuss, we'll just become a laughing stock. He admits he sent the payment, couldn't find her, and decides to just cut his losses to avoid embarrassment.
Seems short-sighted, maybe, but understandable in a way.
Well, it catches up with him. About 3 months later.
The pregnancy becomes obvious.
Exactly. Word gets back to Judah. Your daughter-in-law Tamar is guilty of prostitution, and guess what? She's pregnant.
Oh, wow. The irony. And his reaction now?
Instant, severe judgment, no investigation, no questions, just bring her out and have her burned to death.
Burned. That's incredibly harsh, especially given his own recent actions.
It highlights the double standard, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But Tamar have one last card to play. As they're literally dragging her out to be executed.
She sends a message.
She does. Not a plea for mercy, but evidence. She sends a message straight to Judah.
What does it say?
It's brilliant. She says, I am pregnant by the man who owns these. And then she adds, take a good look. See if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are.
Oh, she presents the pledge right in front of him.
Confronts him with his own items. And the text says, Judah recognized them. No doubt about it.
What does he say? I mean, what can he say?
It's a stunning moment. He doesn't try to deflect or deny. He just declares out loud, she is more righteous than I.
More righteous.
Since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah. He owns it. He admits his failure, his broken promise, is the root cause of her actions.
He sees that her actions, however unconventional, were driven by his injustice towards her.
Exactly. He acknowledges that in this messed up situation, her fight for her rights for the lineage she was promised was in a sense more right than his negligence and fear. It completely reframes everything.
And that's the end of their direct interaction in that way.
The text notes, and he did not sleep with her again. That relationship is resolved, or at least defined.
Then the focus shifts to the birth itself.
Right. Turns out Tamar is pregnant with twins.
And even the birth is dramatic, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. During labor, one baby's hand comes out first. The midwife, thinking this is the firstborn, quickly ties a scarlet thread around the wrist.
Okay, so that's the firstborn marked.
You'd think.
Yeah.
But then the hand pulls back in and the other twin bursts out first.
No way.
Yes. So the midwife says something like, whoa, how did you break through? And they name him Perez, which means breaking out.
And then the one with the thread.
Then the baby with the scarlet thread on his wrist comes out second, and he's named Zerah.
Wow. So Perez and Zerah, and these sons become important later.
Very important. They carry on Judah's line, which, remember, was threatened by the deaths of and Onan. So through this incredibly complex, morally ambiguous situation, Judah's lineage is secured.
This whole chapter, then, it's not just a detour. It's packed with themes. Duty, yeah, but also deception, justice, how people react under pressure.
Right. Consequences, righteousness. It's all in there. And Judah's journey is fascinating. His failures, his harshness, but also that moment of self-awareness and admission.
And Tamar. I mean, talk about agency in a situation where she seemingly had none. She's vulnerable, yes, but also incredibly resourceful and determined.
Definitely. Her actions challenge norms, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the narrative itself, through Judah's own words, validates her cause, calling her more righteous.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to think about. Considering everything that happened, Judah's failures, Tamar's deception, the cultural context, what does that phrase, more righteous, really mean here? When Judah says Tamar is more righteous than he is, what kind of righteousness is the story pointing to? What does that look like in this messy, complicated narrative?